Unbearable. Dylan Wang's unexpected surprise for Shen Yue leaves her speechless. The night had been quiet, too quiet. After weeks of emotional whiplash, cryptic interviews, and a fragile truce between Dylan Wang and Shen Yue, fans had started to believe that their story was finally calming down. But beneath the calm, something extraordinary was brewing. Dylan, who had been noticeably absent from public events for nearly a month, was spotted arriving at a secluded art gallery in Shanghai. No press conference. No announcements. Just him in a simple black coat, a quiet storm of intent written across his face. Shen Yue had been invited under the guise of a casual dinner with mutual friends. She arrived in a soft cream dress, her hair swept back simply, unaware that this night would rewrite everything. Inside, the gallery was almost empty. The only sounds were the soft echo of her heels on polished floors and the gentle hum of music that seemed to come from nowhere. She stepped into the main room, and froze. The walls were covered in framed photographs. Her photographs. Every candid moment the world had seen of her and Dylan, some captured by fans, others leaked by paparazzi, and some so private she had no idea how he'd gotten them, had been transformed into breathtaking black and white art pieces. There was the stolen picture of them by the lake in Xingyi, rain streaking down their faces. The quiet moment in the book cafe when Dylan had left her a folded note by her novel. The infamous elevator shot, blurred but powerful, where witnesses had claimed Shen Yue stopped breathing in his arms. In the center of it all was one final photograph, a close-up of her hand, still wearing the ring she'd once admitted she couldn't take off. Her breath caught. "Dylan," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the soft music. He stepped out from behind a partition, dressed simply, but his presence filled the room. His expression was unreadable, nervous, maybe, but steady. "I didn't want the world to tell our story anymore," he said quietly. "I wanted you to see it, through my eyes." Shen Yue turned, her eyes sweeping over the walls again. Each photograph wasn't just an image. It was a memory. A wound. A heartbeat frozen in time. The gallery lighting dimmed slightly, and a single spotlight illuminated the largest frame. Underneath it, a small wooden table held an envelope with her name written in his familiar handwriting. Her hands trembled as she picked it up. Inside was a letter, no, a promise. Dylan's words spilled out in ink. "I kept every moment because I was afraid I'd lose them. Afraid I'd lose you. Maybe I already did. But if these memories are all I get to keep, I wanted you to know, they were never just photos. They were proof that even in the chaos, we had something real." Tears blurred her vision. She had thought she was done crying over him. She had thought the wounds had started to heal. But standing there, surrounded by the life they had lived together, she felt every unspoken word between them pressing in. She turned to him, her voice trembling. "Why now?" Dylan's jaw tightened, and for a moment, he looked like the boy who had held her hand through storms and heartbreak. "Because I'm done hiding," he said. "And because I couldn't stand watching the world make you doubt how much you mean to me." Her breath caught again. The room felt smaller, the air heavier. From outside, a sudden flash, paparazzi had caught wind of their location. Somewhere, a camera clicked, capturing the tension. The internet would explode by morning. But in that instant, Dylan didn't care. He took a step closer, closing the space between them. "You don't have to say anything," he whispered. "I just needed you to know." She opened her mouth to respond, but the door creaked open, another sound, another presence. Bai Lu's voice, hesitant but sharp, called out from the entrance. The interruption sent a ripple through the moment, and Shen Yue flinched. Dylan's eyes flicked toward the door, conflicted. Outside, reporters were already shouting questions. Bai Lu stepped into the gallery, her expression unreadable. Was it anger? Worry? Betrayal? Shen Yue's heart pounded as she realized the fragile, private world Dylan had created for her was about to shatter under the weight of public scrutiny. But Dylan stayed calm. His gaze never left Shen Yue's face. "This isn't about anyone else," he said softly, almost pleading. "It's about us." Shen Yue's fingers tightened around the letter. She felt the weight of years, the elevator moment, the hospital nights, the ring she had never stopped wearing. She felt the eyes of the world waiting for her reaction. And she didn't know what to do. The music swelled slightly, as if the universe itself was holding its breath. Behind Bai Lu, more voices, Zhong Lingha's among them, echoed through the corridor. The world was catching up to them. But for one more heartbeat, Dylan and Shen Yue stood frozen in their own universe, surrounded by the proof of everything they had been and everything they might still be. "Please," Dylan said quietly, almost breaking. "Don't walk away this time." Her lips parted, a single tear falling as the room seemed to blur around her. The cameras outside caught another flash. The first leaked photos would be online within minutes. And just like that, the fragile magic of the gallery threatened to unravel. Yet even as voices grew louder and the outside world closed in, Shen Yue felt the faintest flicker of something she hadn't let herself feel in months: hope. The letter in her hand, the photographs on the walls, and the way Dylan's voice cracked on the word "please" were undeniable. Something inside her whispered that this wasn't over. Not yet. The night wasn't done with them. And neither was fate. The flashbulbs outside grew harsher, their bursts of light slicing through the gallery's fragile calm. Voices swelled beyond the door, paparazzi barking questions, fans shouting their names, and the unmistakable buzz of a story about to break. But inside the room, Dylan and Shen Yue stood perfectly still, the world narrowed to the distance between them. The photographs on the walls seemed to hum with memory, each one an unspoken word neither had been brave enough to say aloud. Bai Lu's footsteps echoed against the polished floors as she stepped further into the gallery. Her gaze flicked from Dylan to Shen Yue, lingering on the letter clutched in Shen Yue's trembling hands. There was hurt in Bai Lu's eyes, but also something softer, confusion, maybe even pity. "Dylan," she said quietly, "do you have any idea what people will think when they see this?" Dylan didn't look at her. His focus was unwavering, locked onto Shen Yue. "I don't care what they think," he said, his voice low but steady. "This wasn't for them." The sharpness of his tone stunned Shen Yue. Dylan, the man who had always measured every word, always careful about his image, was unraveling his armor in front of the world. Bai Lu's lips parted, as if to argue, but Zhong Lingha's voice called her name from the hall, pulling her attention away. She hesitated for a moment, her eyes flickering with 1,000 unsaid things, then turned and stepped back toward the door. For a heartbeat, Dylan and Shen Yue were alone again. The music, soft, bittersweet, filled the silence. It was the same song that had played during one of their first drama shoots years ago, a melody so familiar it made Shen Yue's chest tighten. She glanced at the letter again. His words, scrawled in ink, burned through her, "Afraid I'd lose you." She swallowed hard. "You shouldn't have done this," she whispered, her voice shaking. "Maybe not," Dylan replied. "But I couldn't keep pretending." The tension in the room thickened, heavy and electric. Shen Yue's breath caught as he took a step closer. He was near enough now that she could smell his cologne, something warm and clean that sent memories rushing back. Late-night rehearsals. Quiet car rides. The way he'd wrap his coat around her shoulders when she was cold. Her throat tightened. "You don't get to just show up and rewrite everything," she said. But her voice lacked conviction. "I'm not rewriting," he said softly. "I'm reminding." The world outside roared, the pounding of feet, the scrape of camera lenses against glass, but inside, it was as if time itself had slowed. Shen Yue turned to look at one of the photographs, a candid shot of them on set, Dylan laughing at something she'd said. The joy on his face in that picture wasn't for the cameras. It had been real. Her fingers brushed the frame unconsciously. Behind her, Dylan's voice cracked just slightly. "Do you remember that day?" She nodded. "You spilled coffee on your script," he said, a small, almost rueful smile tugging at his lips. "And you were so embarrassed you hid behind a pillar." She laughed quietly, just once, soft and unguarded, and the sound hit him like a tidal wave. He closed the distance between them without thinking, drawn by the sound he hadn't realized he'd been starving for. When their eyes met again, the weight of the past months, the interviews, the rumors, the arguments hung between them like an unspoken question. "Dylan," she began, but her voice broke. His hand hovered near hers, hesitant, waiting. The door creaked again. This time, it was Zhong Lingha stepping inside. His tall frame filled the doorway, his expression unreadable as he took in the scene, the walls of memories, the envelope in Shen Yue's hand, Dylan standing too close. Are you done? Zhong Lingha's voice was low, controlled, but his eyes were sharp. Shen Yue flinched. Dylan didn't move. This isn't what it looks like, Shen Yue said quickly, though the words rang hollow even to her. Zhong's gaze flicked to Dylan, who finally stepped back, but only slightly. You're right, Dylan said coolly. It's not what it looks like. It's what it is. The tension in the room spiked, heavy and dangerous. Outside, the noise was growing, fans chanting, reporters clamoring. A security guard's muffled voice tried to keep the crowd at bay. Zhong Linghe stepped forward, his jaw tight. You're playing with fire, Dylan, he said. Dylan met his gaze without flinching. Maybe. But I'd rather burn than keep living a lie. The words hit Shen Yue like a physical blow. Her fingers tightened around the letter until the paper crumpled. The gallery lights flickered slightly, a subtle reminder that the night was slipping away, and the world outside wasn't going to wait for them to sort out their hearts. Zhong Linghe took a step closer to Shen Yue, his presence protective but gentle. We should go, he said quietly. Shen Yue hesitated. Her heart was a storm, torn between the safety Zhong offered and the gravity pulling her back to Dylan. Outside, a voice shouted her name, followed by another blinding flash of light. Dylan's voice cut through the chaos. Shen Yue. Just her name, but spoken like a plea. She turned to face him, her eyes wide and glassy. You don't have to decide tonight, he said. But don't let the noise out there tell you what's in here. He touched his chest lightly, just over his heart. Her lips trembled, and for a moment, it looked as if she might speak, but Zhong gently guided her toward the door. The flashes of cameras swallowed her as soon as she stepped outside. Questions rained down. Are you two back together? What was Dylan's gallery about? Is this the end for Zhong Linghe? She didn't answer. Behind her, Dylan remained in the gallery, staring at the walls now stripped of their magic. The photographs no longer looked triumphant, they looked like evidence of something fragile, something he might have just shattered. Bai Lu's silhouette appeared at the edge of the doorway again. Her voice was softer now. You didn't think this through, did you? He didn't answer. She stepped closer, her expression unreadable. You've set the internet on fire, she said. They're going to tear her apart. And maybe you, too. Dylan finally turned to look at her, exhaustion etched across his face. Let them, he said. At least they'll know what's real. Outside, Shen Yue climbed into Zhong Linghe's car. Her hands were still trembling as she looked out the window at the gallery disappearing into the night. The envelope sat on her lap, its edges now creased and worn. Zhong didn't speak as he drove, but his hand tightened on the wheel. The tension between them was palpable, a silent storm neither of them knew how to weather. In the back of her mind, the images from the gallery replayed each photograph, each memory. And Dylan's voice, don't walk away this time. Her heart ached, torn between two worlds. By the time she reached her apartment, social media had exploded. Hashtags about Dylan's surprise were already trending worldwide. Fan theories swirled, speculation burned, and clips of the gallery leaked online. The most viral image was the close-up of her hand wearing the ring. She stood in her darkened living room, the city lights flickering outside her window. The letter lay on the coffee table, its words echoing in her mind. She picked up her phone. Dozens of messages flooded her screen, Bai Lu, her manager, old friends, all wanting answers. But her thumb hovered over one name. Dylan.